Hi boys and girls, it's time for Little House in the Big Woods. I've got my coffee ready here to go. And when we last left Laura and her family, it was Christmas time and they were making candy out of sugar, and Paul went out and he got some snow and they put it in pans and they were able to heat up that sugar and then pour it over the snow and it would freeze up and make candy. So let's see where they're at. Drink your coffee. And we're ready to go. All this was done because Auntie Eliza and Uncle Peter and the cousins Peter and Alice and Ella were coming to spend Christmas. The day before Christmas they came. Laura and Mary heard a gay ringing of sleigh bells growing louder every moment, and then the big bobsled came out of the woods and drove up to the gate. Aunt Eliza and Uncle Peter and the cousins were in it, all covered up under blankets and robes and buffalo skins. They were wrapped up in so many coats and mufflers and veils and shawls that they looked like big shapeless bundles. When they all came in, the little house was full and running over. Black Susan ran out and hid in the barn. But Jack leaped in circles through the snow, barking as though he would never stop. Now there were cousins to play with. As soon as Aunt Eliza had unwrapped them, Peter, Alice, and Ella, and Laura and Mary began to run and shout. At last, Aunt Eliza told them to be quiet. Then Alice said, "I'll tell you what let's do. Let's play pictures." Alice said they must go outdoors to do it, and Ma thought it was too cold, but Laura, too cold for Laura to play outdoors. But when she saw how disappointed Laura was, she said she might go after all for a little while. She put on Laura's coat and mittens and warm cape with a hood, and wrapped a muffler around her neck and let her go. A muffler is like a scarf that you put on. Laura had never had so much fun. All morning she played outdoors in the snow with Alice and Ella and Peter and Mary, making pictures. The way they each did was this. Each one by herself climbed up on a stump, and then all at once, holding their arms out wide, they fell off the stump and into the soft, deep snow. They fell flat on their faces. Then they tried to get up without spoiling the marks they had made when they fell. If they did it well, there in the snow were 5 holes shaped almost exactly like 4 little girls and a boy, arms and legs and all. They called these their pictures. They played so hard all day, and when the night came, they were so excited to sleep. Picture. There's a little bug flying around me. Little stinking bug. You tickle my nose. But they must sleep or Santa Claus would not come. So they hung their stockings by the fireplace and said their prayers and went to bed. Alice and Ella and Mary and Laura all in one big bed on the floor. Peter had a trundle bed. Aunt Eliza and Uncle Peter were going to sleep in the big bed, and another bed was made in the attic floor for Pa and Ma. The buffalo robes and all the blankets had been brought in from Uncle Peter's sled, so there was enough covers for everyone. Pa and Ma and Aunt Eliza and Uncle Peter sat by the fire talking, and just as Laura was drifting off to sleep, she heard Uncle Peter say, "Eliza had a narrow squeak the other day when I was away at Lake City. You know Prince, that one big dog of mine?" Laura was wide awake at once. She always liked to hear about dogs. She lay still as a mouse and looked at the firelight flickering on the log walls and listening to Uncle Peter. Picture. There's all the kids. Oh, whoops. There's all the kids. All the girls asleep in their pallet. Well, Uncle Peter said, early in the morning, Eliza started to the spring to get a pail of water, and Prince was a-following her. She got to the edge of the ravine where the path goes down to the spring, and all of a sudden Prince set his teeth to the back of her skirt and pulled. You know what a big dog he is? Eliza scolded him, but he wouldn't let go. And he's so big and strong she couldn't get away from him. She kept backing and pulling. He kept on backing and pulling till he tore a piece of her skirt. It was my blueprint, Aunt Eliza said to Ma. Dear me, Ma said. He tore a big piece right out of the back of it, Aunt Eloise said. I was so mad I could have whipped him for it, but he growled at me. Prince growled at you? Pa said. Yes, said Aunt Eliza. So then she started on again towards the spring, Uncle Peter went on. But Prince jumped into her path ahead of her and snarled at her. He paid no attention to her talking and scolding. He just kept on showing his teeth and snarling, and then he tried to get past him, and he kept on in front of her and snapping at her. That scared her. I should think it would, said Ma. He was so savage, I thought he was going to bite me, said Aunt Eloise. I believed he would have. I have never heard of such a thing, said Ma. What on earth did you do? I turned right around and ran into the house where the children were, and I slammed the door, Aunt Eloise answered. Of course, Prince was savage with strangers, said Uncle Peter, but he was always so kind to Eloise and the children. I felt perfectly safe to leave them with him. Eliza couldn't understand it at all. After she got into the house, he kept pacing around like it and growling. Every time she started to open the door, he jumped at her and snarled. Had he gone mad? Asked Ma. That's what I thought, Aunt Eloise said. I didn't know what to do. There I was, shut up in the house with the children and not daring to go out. And we didn't have any water. I couldn't even get any snow to melt. Every time I opened the door, so much as a crack. Prince acted like he would tear me to pieces. How long did this go on? Pa asked. All day, till late in the afternoon, Aunt Eliza said. Peter had taken the gun, or I would have shot him. Along late in the afternoon, Uncle Peter said, he got quiet and laid down in front of the door. Eliza thought he was asleep, and she made up her mind to try to slip past him and get to the spring for some water. So she opened the door very quiet, but of course he woke right up anyway. When he saw she had the water pail in her hand, he got up and walked ahead of her to the spring, just the same as usual. And there, all around the spring in the snow, were the fresh tracks of a panther. The tracks were as big as my hand, said Aunt Eliza. Yes, Uncle Peter said. He was a big fella. His tracks were the biggest I'd ever saw. He would have got Eliza sure if Prince had let her go to the spring then that morning. I saw the tracks. He had been lying up in that big oak over the spring, waiting for some animals to come there for water. Undoubtedly, he would have dropped down on her. Night was coming on when she saw the tracks, and she couldn't waste any time gathering back to the house with that pail of water. Prince followed close behind her, looking back into the ravine now and then. I took him into the house with me, Aunt Eliza said, and we all stayed inside till Peter came home. Did you get him? Pa asked Uncle Peter. No, Uncle Peter said. I took my gun and hunted all around the place, but I couldn't find him. I saw some more of his tracks. He'd gone on north, further into the big woods. Alice and Ella and Mary were all wide awake now, and Laura put her head under the covers and whispered to Alice, "Why, weren't you scared?" Alice whispered back that she was scared, but Ella was scareder, and Ella whispered that she wasn't either any such thing. Well, anyway, you made more fuss about being thirsty, Alice whispered. They laid there whispering about it till Ma said, Charles, those children never will get to sleep unless you play for them. So Pa got his fiddle. The room was still and warm and full of firelight. Ma's shadow and Aunt Eliza's and Uncle Peter's were big and quivering on the walls in the flickering firelight, and Pa's fiddle sang merrily to itself. It sang Money Musk and the Red Heifer, The Devil's Dream, and Arkansas Travelers. And Laura went to sleep while Pa and the fiddle were soft, slowly singing, My darling Nellie Gray, they have taken you away, and I'll never see my darling anymore. In the morning, they all woke up almost at the same moment. They looked at their stockings, and something was in them. Santa Claus had been there. Alice and Ella and Laura in their red flannel nightgowns and Peter in his red flannel nightshirt all ran shouting to see what had been brought. In each stocking there was a pair of bright red mittens, and there was a long flat stick of red and white striped peppermint candy, all beautifully notched along each side. They were all so happy they could hardly speak of that. At first, they just looked with shiny eyes at those lovely Christmas presents. But Laura was happiest of all. Laura had a rag doll. She was a beautiful doll. She had a face of white cloth with black button eyes. A black pencil had made her eyebrows, and her cheeks and her mouth were red with the ink made from the pokeberries. Her hair was black yarn that had been knitted and raveled so that it was curly. She had a little red flannel stockings, and little black cloth glittered her shoes, and her dress was pretty pink and buffalo calico. Picture. I'm going to have to look up what buffalo calico is. I remember when I was a little girl, I asked my grandmother the same question. I don't remember what her answer was. I think it's a type of cloth, buffalo calico. I'll have to look it up though and make sure, but pretty sure that's what it is. It's like a print, almost like a plaid buffalo calico. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to let you go today. I love you. Have a great day. Remember to keep reading. Bye, guys.